We've spent the summer asking the question, what does it mean to be human? So today I'm going to take you to a psalm most of you have probably never read. If you have, I bet you haven't used it in your devotions, okay? It's a psalm about David and his honest rage. He's very, very angry. And it actually gives us a model for how to handle anger and how to think about it. And we're going to need to talk about this as a church as we move ahead, especially this fall with the elections coming. I'll come back to that in just a minute. So the way we've approached it, the world has lost complete track of what it means to be human. Okay, there's what we call gender dysphoria, just dysphoria. There's confusion everywhere you look now. And we don't have any idea as a culture in our country how to define humanity and what that means. And so we're looking at this summer, picturing, I have this picture. If you could look in the eyes of Jesus, you would have an idea of what it means for you to be human. Okay? So in a sense, Jesus becomes a mirror for us. And so I decided to spend the summer looking at this Hebrew word Hesed. Okay? It's a word that should be common to you like agape. Doesn't mean anything except you know that it means love. Well, Hesed does that too. So everybody say it together. Hesed. That's pretty good. You're getting better and better. We're going to say it every Sunday because I want you to get used to this word. It is one of those central theological terms weaving its way through the Old Testament like agape is in the New Testament. It's a unique word. We don't have literature from any other nation using this concept or this word. It's often translated loving kindness in your English translations. But what it means is that God is so committed and he's so obligated under his covenant that he can't go backwards. He's not going to go backwards. He's not going to break his promise. As Paul said later on, though we are faithless, he remains faithful. So we've looked at Solomon, we've looked at David, we've looked at Moses, we've looked at several places where this word appears in very significant texts. And so hopefully by now you're getting the idea that this concept of Hesed is that God has made a promise to you to stand behind you and support you. And he's going to do that. I had coffee with a couple this week. So the two of you just be patient. And they're making their way back to God. Okay? Oh, now you're talking my language. And so they've been away from God for 2 decades. They were terrified to come into church. Just terrified. The first time they came, and I said, why? Why are you terrified? Well, we thought God might strike us dead. I said, what did you do? Well, we've lived such horrible lives. Well, gosh, if that's the criteria, everybody here in the building is going to get struck dead. And it was really cute talking them through that. They didn't grasp this concept of how much God loves them. How much God loves them. So we were together for a couple hours having coffee. And so I asked them, what do you feel right now? This second, sitting here at this table. And she said, I feel like when I look in your eyes, I feel like you really love me. I said, I do. You're absolutely right. That should be the earmark. That should be the defining characteristic of our church, right there. Every person you talk to, if they look in your eyes, they should walk away with that feeling that you love them right then. So then I stunned her. I said, I'm not the only one. Jesus right now is chuckling over what's happening. He loves you too. And she said, he's not mad at me? No, he's not mad at you. He's more ecstatic than I am that we're sitting here having coffee. I said, I'm trying hard not to laugh at you. It's so wonderful. Yeah, but I really screwed up my life. I said, so did I. Let me tell you about the drugs and all the other things that I did before I came to Christ. Been there, done that. And it's just a sweet thing. This is unique to Christianity. This concept of Hesed is unique. No other religion has it. You may remember, for those of you that were back 3 years ago when we started Leviticus, and we started looking right off the bat at the sacrifices, chapters 1 through 7. Looks like a whole lot of rules and commands. Said, what's the opening verse? Whenever anyone wants to offer a sacrifice, it's an invitation, not a command. God is inviting these slaves that he just took out of Egypt into a relationship. He's inviting into a relationship where he's going to take care of them and protect them. They were taught in Egypt that the reason you offer sacrifices is to appease all the gods. And so he was teaching them, you don't have to appease me. We don't offer sacrifices to appease. We offer sacrifices for relationship. And that's at the heart of Lent, is that you give up something precious on behalf of someone else for the sake of relationship. And so this concept of God's incredible love permeates the entire Scriptures. And if you read the Old Testament very carefully, what you find out, his wrath is not vented toward you. It's vented toward the rebellious and the evil people who would hurt you. So his love always shines through for his people, even when he's kicking them in the pants for doing something they shouldn't be doing. It's all grounded in this concept of Hesed. So now we're going to read a psalm, Psalm 109. Like I said, I bet most of you haven't read it. And if you have, I bet you haven't used it in your devotion, but I'm going to encourage you to do that. It's a Psalm of David. So Psalm 109, first thing we learn is he's been betrayed. Verses 1 through 5. My God, whom I praise, do not remain silent. For people who are wicked and deceitful have opened their mouths against me. They have spoken against me with lying tongues. With words of hatred they surround me. They attack me without cause. In return for my friendship, there's betrayal. You guys have been through this. In return for my friendship, they accuse me, but I am a man of prayer. They repay me evil for good and hatred for my friendship. So the very first thing we learn, there's somebody out there that David is writing about and he's reflecting on that has really stabbed him in the back. We're not sure who that is. Most of scholarship believes it was somebody in his cabinet. He's the king. Somebody that he entrusted with care. You'll see why in a minute. To care for people, and he didn't do that. So whoever it is, it's obviously a friend because he extended his friendship and it was rejected. He was betrayed because of that. So here comes the part about the honest rage in verse 6. Appoint someone evil to oppose my enemy. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is tried, let him be found guilty, and may his prayers condemn him. May his days be few, make another take his place of leadership. May his children be fatherless and his wife a widow. Wow, these are strong words from a very godly person, aren't they? May his children be wandering beggars, and may they be driven from their ruined homes. May a creditor seize all that he has. May strangers plunder the fruits of his labor. May no one extend kindness to him or take pity on his fatherless children. May his descendants be cut off, their names blotted out from the next generation. May the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord. May the sin of his mother never be blotted out. May their sins always remain before the Lord, that he may blot out their name from the earth. Okay, this is rage. Okay? Like I said, I bet you don't use this in your devotions. But I'm going to encourage you to from time to time. In just a minute, I'll tell you why shortly. This is rage, but it's an honest rage. It's honest. The question is, why is he so angry? Verse 16, because he never thought of doing a kindness. And here's this word, chesed. The love that God shows us. He never thought of even showing this kind of love. Rather, he hounded to death the poor and the needy and the brokenhearted. He loved to pronounce a curse. May it come back on him. He found no pleasure in blessing. May it be far from him. He wore cursing as his garment. It entered his body like water, into his bones like oil. May it be like a cloak wrapped about him, like a belt tied forever around him. May this be the Lord's payment to my accuser, to those who speak evil. So why is he angry? Because he entrusted someone to do something important, to care for the poor, the marginalized, and he didn't do it. He did the opposite. He robbed them, he murdered them. He disenfranchised them. That's why David's so angry. Whoever this is, he extended Hesed to this person, and this person refused to show that to someone else. That is a legitimate reason to get angry. There are very few reasons to get angry. We learn in the New Testament that the anger of humans does not accomplish the purposes of God. But there are places. Jesus, when he cleaned out the money changers, he's pretty upset. Why? Because they put the money changers in the court of the Gentiles. You know, the original the original tabernacle and the original temple under Solomon didn't have a court of women or court of Gentiles. That was added later. Perhaps under Hezekiah, we're not sure when, but it certainly appears by the time of Christ. So there was a spot that the Gentiles could come, and they could come no closer to the cross, no closer to the Holy of Holies. They created a barrier, a banister around the holy place, if you will, with signs to the Gentiles, enter at the risk of death. They weren't allowed in. So they had one spot where they could come. That was as close as they were allowed, which was not God's design, by the way. That's not what you find in the Old Testament, but that's what they did by the time of Christ. And so he walks in, and where did they set up all the money changers? Where did they set up the people that were making a profit for the priests? In the court of the Gentiles. Yeah, he got angry. You have made my father's house a den of robbers. It's supposed to be a place, and he quotes it, of prayer for all people. Everyone is welcome. That was Solomon's prayer, 1 Kings 8. And when the foreigner comes to this temple because they've heard of your great name, for they will indeed hear of your great name, listen to their prayers, welcome them, bless them, so they will know that you are the one true God, 1 Kings 8. And they had gone so far away that they had the Gentiles out in another place. And that's where they chose to put the money changers. There is a time to get angry. There is. And it's not because you're not getting your personal needs met. That's not the reason. The reason to get angry is because someone else that you see is being abused and hurt. That's why when I looked at this church, 'cause I looked at other churches, not just this one. I looked at the financial statements and I saw where the heart was of this church. Deeply embedded in the DNA, we're 112 years old. Deeply embedded in the DNA is to help the poor people in this county, or as our Constitution says, this vicinity. And this church, without even knowing very much about you, started to win my heart over, because that's my heart. Is to help the marginalized, the orphans, the widows, the poor, the disenfranchised. That's why I love a food bank where the cars are strung out all the way down the street. I just love that. That's why David is angry. You see, whoever this opponent is, this used to be friend, he took advantage of the marginalized. So here's David's prayer to the Lord in verse 21. But you, sovereign Lord, help me for your name's sake, out of the goodness of your Hesed, your love. Out of that goodness, rescue me. Deliver me from this person. David had all the power in the world probably to get vengeance. He's a king. But he chose not to. And here we have a model of how we handle anger and vengeance. We take it to the Lord. None of you are qualified to get vengeance. You're not. He took it to the Lord. And then down verse 26, help me, Lord my God, save me according to your unfailing love, according to your Hesed. That commitment to do what is right. So why is he laying all this out before the Lord? Why is he pleading with him on this? Because remember in Exodus 34, what did the Lord say to Moses after the golden calf? I will not leave the sins unpunished. David didn't have to do anything. All he had to do was bring before the Lord. He says, Lord, look at what this person is doing. Look at what he's doing. In other words, he trusted God. We should be angry. Angry about what? Okay, I got my stool. Those of you that are here, you know what that means. Last week I talked about abortion. It's very intriguing, the feedback I got from a small group here at the church. And I feel like I need to talk about what I heard from you. We're facing a lot of challenges as a church. There's no question about it. Everywhere you look, the grounds swell. The whole staff feels like that the spiritual battle is getting stronger and stronger. You all know about the amphitheater, what's happening with the town council. They're not our enemies. Ephesians 6, our enemies are not flesh and blood. It's Satan. Okay? So you know about that. You know, some of you know that we're starting a Christian school. We have all of the permitting issues now with the building department. Okay, we're okay with that. Some of you know that starting the Christian school, we have the public health department now requiring lots of things. And so the obstacle course is getting a little more complex. Okay? On top of that, we didn't expect to come in here for the summer. There's no air conditioning. And the reason why, 22 years ago, they said we don't need it. We're at the amphitheater. Never dawned on anybody that we'd be here. We're not quite as full now because we're toward the end of the summer, but some of you were here 4 or 5 weeks ago when we were packed all the way out there, and it was blistering hot. So we're thinking through ventilation, how to improve it. What does that look like? Those of you over in the corners can't see the screen. We never dreamed that we would have people over there. So Rob's looking at flat screen TVs to put up so you can see the lyrics. We have the election coming up. We have everything going on. You know what's happening with Biden and Harris. I don't have to tell you that. I asked the elders, did you think when we decided to start a Christian school that Satan was going to sit on the sidelines and smile at us? No. And that's not taking into account. Some of you know my own medical issues and Summers. And, you know, I walked into her hospital room when she's having between one of her brain surgeries. And it was the sweetest thing. She just put her arms up and I put my arms up. We just hugged each other. And it was so great being with her. I just loved it. And some of you are going through things like cancer. Did we expect Satan to do that? What you said, Kevin, is right on the money. The quality of the surrounding struggles that we have and challenges is an indication that what we're doing is worthwhile. Is it right to get angry? Yes. But against who? I'm not sure how this got communicated last week, but there's a few that thought I was telling you not to vote for Kamala Harris. The honest truth is, I don't know what she believes. I went to her website. There's no values listed. She hasn't written it down yet. Would you want me to form an opinion about you based on sound bites that I hear from somebody else? That's all you get from the media. I don't know what to believe. I heard I don't listen to Joe Rogan. I only listened one time. It just happened to be on. He played something that Joe Biden said, and he said, friends, this is not Joe Biden. And he's not a Joe Biden fan. He said, this is AI. This is artificial intelligence. I don't know what to believe. I don't know what she believes. I did not make a statement against anything politically. By the way, some of you thought I was making a statement against Trump last week, too, okay? I'm an equal opportunity trash talker. Okay? I vote my conscience like you, but I personally don't care. You know why? God said several times, I decide which nation to raise up, and I decide which nation to destroy. Tim Keller posted this week, and I'm going to read it. One of the signs that an object is functioning as an idol is that fear becomes one of the chief characteristics of life. When we center our lives on the idol, we become dependent on it. If our counterfeit God is threatened in any way, our response is complete panic. We do not say, oh, what a shame, how difficult, but rather, the end, it's the end, there is no hope. I'm laughing my head off. The Republicans, if Harris gets elected, then our country is gone. I'm laughing at the Democrats. If Trump gets elected, democracy is over as we know it. Really? Where's our faith? The closer we get to the election, the more at risk we are as a congregation. Do you realize that? I didn't expect to get criticism on both sides after my sermon last week, but I did. And I'm okay with it. I don't need your approval. I know what I believe. It just stunned me because it shows me that the fractures in the ice is already forming as we get further and further into this election year. He goes on. This may be a reason why so many people now respond to U.S. political trends in such an extreme way. When either party wins an election, a certain percentage of the losing side talks openly about leaving the country. I wish they would. They never do. Leave our church, it's okay. No. They become agitated and fearful for the future. They have put the kind of hope in their political leaders and policies that was once reserved for God and the work of the gospel. Did you know Paul said twice, submit to the governing authorities? You know who the emperor was? Nero. The second time he said it was just before he got executed by Nero. Did you know Peter said that? Do you know who the emperor was? Nero. One of the most evil emperors of the ancient Roman world. And these are the guys saying, submit to the rulers. There is no ruler established, Romans 13, except that which is appointed by God. Keller goes on, when their political leaders are out of power, they experience a death. They believe that if their policies and people are not in power, everything will fall apart. There it is. We're watching it right in front of our eyes. They refuse to admit how much agreement they actually have with the other party and instead focus on the points of disagreement. The points of contention overshadow everything else, and a poisonous environment is created. And I tasted it just a little bit this week. I'm so glad that we finally have somebody other than an old man to vote for. Do you realize that's a slap in the face to God, right? He's the one that created elders. Go ask Elijah what happened when the young boys ridiculed him for his age. He struck him dead. Now, I'm not saying Trump's the guy to vote for. All I'm saying is that age is not the reason to discard something. Do you know how precious it is in our church when I can find an elder older than 70? That's solid gold. I have 2 coming on this year. I feel like I hit the jackpot. Because by the time you get to this age, some of you are going to find out, they start struggling with altitude. And I've said goodbye to so many godly men and women that are older. I just long to have somebody older and wiser, okay? Don't equate age with wisdom, by the way. All right? I have 2 coming on. I hit the jackpot this year. You guys did too. Elders who have been around the block, and they're both sitting here right now. Another sign of idolatry in our politics is that opponents are not considered to be simply mistaken, but to be evil. If you follow this at all on social media, they are slamming each other left and right. After the last presidential election, my 84-year-old mother observed, it used to be that whoever was elected as your president, even if he wasn't the one you voted for, he was still your president. My parents were divided. One was Democrat, one was Republican. They laughed every election. They canceled each other out. And whichever one lost would say to him, that's okay, just wait till next election. They taught me that it doesn't really matter. I wasn't a believer. It took me a long time to figure out that God really is in charge. That's why Psalm 2, he laughs at the nations. He scoffs at them because of their supposed wisdom. They got it all figured out. No, they don't. Nobody does, except God. That doesn't seem to be the case any longer. He was quoting his mother. After each election, there is now a significant number of people who see the incoming president lacking moral legitimacy. The increasing political polarization and bitterness we see in U.S. politics today is a sign that we have made political activism into a form of religion. Folks, please, let me be your pastor, please. I don't care if you have strong opinions about either one. That doesn't bother me. Just don't use it to divide this church. What do you want to be known for? By this, all people will know that you're my disciples if you have the right view of Harris or Trump. No, if you have love for one another. And that's the root of what it means to be human. Hesed. Is when you're looking across the table at someone and you can ask them, what do you feel right now? And they say, I look in your eyes and I feel like you love me. I don't ever want to hear from me, well, I look in your eyes and I don't agree with your political choice. First of all, but none of you know what my political choice is. You keep guessing over 11 years, several of you have tried. My kids don't even know. Only Nancy knows how I vote. So, what are you going to get angry about? What you get angry about reveals your character. I saw some of your character this week in the vitriol that came my way. I'm tough. I can handle it. It doesn't bother me that you get mad at me. I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to teach you about the kingdom and about the goodness of God. That's what I'm here for. What are you going to get angry about? You're going to get angry about the election, really? What about when Harris wins? Those of you that are avid Trump fans, are you going to be angry at those people? What are you going to do when Trump wins? Those of you that are avid Harris fans, you're going to get angry at the other side too? You got to decide this now. I already see the little cracks in the ice. We're not that far away. Fear and anger are signs of idolatry. Being human is doing what David does. He expressed his honest rage. And yes, I get very angry at our government. I do. Because I see what's happening to people that are important to me. Poor people, marginalized, disenfranchised. I see it. Okay? And I don't even care that the rich get richer. That doesn't bother me one bit. Do you know when we do retreats here? Do you know why we keep the costs affordable? Because I have several rich people in our church that underwrite it so that the young families don't have to. I'm so grateful that we have wealthy people. Wealth is not the issue. Greed is. So don't get into the arguments that you hear, all the sound bites that you hear. Okay, the rich are getting richer. So what? God also said, I decide who is rich and I decide who is poor. And Kevin, I loved your words. You know, how did I draw the lottery on the United States? I don't know. But I travel, as most of you know, I travel all over the world. In fact, in 3 weeks, I'm leaving for Rwanda and then Cambodia. And I'm going to see a whole lot of poor people. And I love that he blessed me so I can bless them. We should all have that attitude. No matter how much we have, he blessed us so we can bless others. I've asked in several classrooms over the years, when you see a poor person on the street, do you think that's my responsibility? Or there's a program if they're only responsible? Only about 3 to 4% ever say it's my responsibility. That's us as a church. We can make an impact in this county if we stay focused on the gospel. If we vent our honest rage to the Lord and ask him to rescue us and take care of it. Don't seek vengeance. Don't get mad at people on the other side of the aisle. Whatever the issue is, I don't care. Okay? Don't do it. So I'm pleading with you as your pastor. It is a grueling task to love your enemies. There's nothing easy about it. It's easy to love somebody that loves you, but it's a grueling task to love your enemies. It means the very hard work of entrusting them to God and continuing to show Hesed. That's what it means to be human. What makes you angry? Father, thank you for your goodness. And Lord, thank you for all the people here whom I love, for just being patient with me. Lord, I pray that as a church that you would continue to keep us united. Let us be known for our love for the people of our community and the world, and not for our politics. God, please help us. Help us. Protect our unity. Watch over us. As David said, rescue us because of your Hesed, and show us how to be that kind of believer to all the people around us that are so angry right now. Everywhere we turn, there's angry people. Thank you, Lord, for your goodness. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.